Washington-based think tank the Cato Institute has released a report confirming that there are over $19 billion worth of delayed U.S. weapons to Taiwan. Now, TaiwanPlus has seen an early copy of that report. Its findings show that 62% of the delayed systems are considered traditional weapons, with just 2 orders of F-16 jets and Abrams battle tanks making up over half of that category. 22% of the overall delayed systems are so-called asymmetric weapons, things that are cheaper and more survivable, like high-mobility rocket systems, drones, and Harpoon coastal defense missiles. The last 15% are munitions. Now, for more on what this means for Taiwan's security, I spoke to the report's author, Eric Gomez, who's with the Cato Institute's Defense and Foreign Policy Department.
Before we get to the findings of this report, can you quickly explain what's the difference between asymmetric weapons and traditional weapons?
So asymmetric capabilities are primarily asymmetric because of how they counter an opponent. So if your opponent has a lot of ships and a lot of airplanes and a lot of tanks, a symmetric response would be building your own ships, airplanes, and tanks to fight theirs. An asymmetric response would be investing in different ways to counter them. In the context of Taiwan, asymmetric capabilities usually refer to especially land-based systems because of their mobility, systems that have a small logistics footprint that is harder for China to target.
In this new report, your findings show that a vast majority of the weapons that are delayed are traditional weapons, and that's despite Taiwan's military trying to improve on this asymmetric strategy. So what does this say about the way that Taiwan's military is currently shaped right now?
So I think it tells us that Taiwan is still very much in the traditional military tradition, for lack of a better word. And it makes, I think that, it's easy to criticize Taiwan for this, but I think it makes sense given some of the limitations they're working with, right? Moving to an asymmetric defense strategy comes with trade-offs, and it does make your military less flexible. It does make it more limited in what it can do. You can't get that much for any unit amount of money. Now, if Taiwan had a defense budget of $30 billion a year, then some of this trade-off between asymmetric and traditional goes away because you can afford to do both.
One of the biggest recommendations that you've put forward is for the U.S. to start restricting Taiwan to only purchase asymmetric weapons. Do you think that that's actually possible?
I think that where I'm sitting, the primary value the United States can have is using the leverage we have, right? Because the United States has a lot of leverage over Taiwan in terms of, or a lot of potential leverage. Because we are the only real external arms supplier. If the United States were to tell the Taiwanese, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z if you want to get continued support, I think there's a high likelihood Taiwan would comply. The problem is politically, we haven't been willing to really do that, or in attempts to sort of do that in the past and tie certain forms of support to Taiwan to Taiwanese behavior, often sort of politically doesn't work out on the U.S. side. But the question is, would the U.S. have the political willingness to follow through and actually do something about that? In terms on the Taiwanese side, I think that it would be difficult, right? But I'm kind of okay with putting Taiwan in a difficult position because we haven't put them in a difficult position, and we've gotten the self-defense strategy that we've gotten.
That was Eric Gomez from the Cato Institute, based in Washington, D.C.